Okay, so hello everyone. The topic that we'll be tackling is the instances or the attempts of creating unity of the tribe people in Mindanao, Sulu, Palawan, and all the people with different tribes in the country. Despite the conflict of which tribe or culture should be able to dominate, such the Moros or the Lomads and the Christian Filipinos. So here are the contents of this presentation that we're gonna be discussing. So the first part of or the topic one would be briefly discussed by me, Christian Angelo Embalsado, followed by Ms. Rubelin Diala in the topic two, Ms. Islet, and the last part, including the conclusion, would be Ms. Dragon. So next slide. So according to Baldomero Aguinaldo, but the Spaniards, especially the friars, made the distinction between the Moros, who were described to have true religion in order to sow a religious discord. So we included this famous statement of Baldomero Aguinaldo because we think that this was the main reason why up to these days the conflict between Moros, Lomads, and Christianized Filipinos, have never been extinguished. However, this presentation that we're gonna be focusing the unity and solidarity between the diverse people in the country rather than all-out war and conflict that merely between us fighting one another while living in a one ununiting nation. So we've known from the previous discussion that Moros, Lomads, and Christian Filipinos are destined to one another for they have diversified culture. Hence, the seed of hatred and hostility in each other, which one should be able to dominate, has been sown. Ostensibly, this continuous cycle is innate and perhaps has no end. Apart from hostility and divergence, polarization and conflict in Muslims, Christianized Filipinos, and Lomads, there were still many instances and attempts that proved we can be united in harmony amidst diversity. Ergo, they fight each other, however, they were somehow united to fight each foreign colonization, Spanish rule and American colonization, etc. etc. So they might have not seen it, however, we as the product of the history will discern and shall be able to see it. So I think this all sums up my part, and the next reporter would be Miss Rubelin Diala. Okay.
Hello, so I will be tackled whether instances or attempts of Moro, Lumad, and Christian Filipino cooperation in their struggle against foreign colonialism. So the issue is, there were instances or attempts of Moro's cooperation with Lomads and Christian. My answer is yes. The case of Databasan in lately was not the only incident of this sort. Yet, in fact, the revolutionary government of Emilio Aguinaldo sent a letter to the Sultan of Sulu, calling for solidarity and brotherhood. Upon this letter, the basis of a real confederation was absolute respect for their beliefs and traditions. Yet, Aguinaldo then sent a letter to Tato Pedro Cuevas, a native of Cavite who managed to become the dato of some important Pangasinan. The letter spoke to how the Igorots and the Aetas had joined the revolution to share in the victories of their brothers in valleys. They had lived in the mountains not because of racial differences with the lowlanders, but because they loved liberty. Now that there was liberty in the country, they were coming down to the lowlands. Cuevas was asked to appraise the Sulu Sultan of all this and to assure him that there would not anymore be repetition of bloody wars, initiated by the criminal ambitions of the Spaniards who made brothers fight each other. So the main point of the letter was to make a cooperation against the colonialism, to warn him that another power, the American, was now trying to succeed the Spaniards. And also, this letter explains how a combination of a Zulus with a people of Luzon would make it difficult for a sider to dominate the Filipinos. So if there's a cooperation happen between Nomad, Christian, and Moros, so it is impossible for the colonialism or colonialists to dominate the Filipinos. And also, Baldomero Aguinaldo also wrote a letter dated May 31, 1899, which was addressed to the Sultan of Marangas. The letter took about one god. So there was an issue that we only have a one god, even though we have a different religions. But the Spaniards, especially the friars, made a distinction between the Moros, who were described to have a false religion, and the Christian, who were asserted to the true religion. So for so many years, the distinction between our religion to believe that the Islam's religion or the Moros religion is not a false religion, it's not a true religion. But they believe, they were asserted that the religion of a Christian is the true one. But it wasn't being proved yet. In order to show religious discord among the Filipino race, he also explained further that as brother and sons of the same race, he would join in the aspiration of independence and liberty. So, as the leaders believe that we are all brothers and sons. We are all, we all need, we are just the same. But only the Spaniard made a distinction between our religions. So, to be able to stop the race, we would have to request or do request to join against independence or to get the independence and liberty. The sequence of events brought about by American occupation plus the difficulty in the system of transportation and communication may have hindered the blossoming of a wonderful relationship between the revolutionary government of Aguinaldo and the sultans of the south. Yet, the letter was not being answered. So, the letter or yung mga sulat eh hindi pa talaga nasagot. Hindi talaga nasagot yung sulat ni Aguinaldo or the Filipino revolutionists. But these letters remains a very important because they represent a turning point in our ancestors' view of things. Sorry. So, yung mga sulat na ipinadala ng revolutionary Filipinos in Emilio Aguinaldo's time, it was very important because it emphasized or it explains how we are, how they value the one thing or pananaw nila sa isang bagay, isang Diyos or yung cooperation, isang sagot para matigil ang mga hindi magwagi yung mga kolonyalismo. Note that for 33 years or 330 years, we have were historically conditioned to believe that the Islamites is the enemy of the Christian natives. So sa haba ng panahon, no, for 330 years, naniniwala tayo na magkaaway talaga yung Islam at saka Christian. But in the later, we have come to realize that we to fight like colonial ambitions of the colonial. But in the end, yung later talaga yung nag-explain na ginawa lang para ng mga Spaniard or yung kolonyalismo na pag-awayin ang mga Christian at Muslim. And that would be all on my report.
Hello, malunggan ako. So, good day everyone. I'm Elizabeth Y. Smith and today I will be one of your reporter. So I will tackle what inspiration can we get out of these attempts. So as what my colleague discusses are the instances or attempts at cooperation of our forefathers in which should inspire us that we should not only related by blood, language, and culture, in which these are the basis of ethnicity, the primordial foundation of nationhood. But most importantly is that we had a conviction to belong to each other. Kahit magkaiba-iba ang relihiyon natin, ay iisa ang Diyos na pinaniniwalaan natin at hindi yun mag-iiba. In other words, the moments of operation in the history should not be regulated only as the footnotes in our textbook, which means it should not dismiss to an inferior position. So dapat pinapahalagahan natin ito at hindi lang parang katulad ng libro na tinatambak lang natin at hindi binabasa. So, in which means dapat nilang malaman ang sentro ng ating kasaysayan dahil sila ay naging bahagi ng pinakamaluwalhating pangyayari sa ating nakaraan. Kaya sana sa mga ibang Pilipino ay alamin at tuklasin pa nila ang ating kasaysayan. And I will call Nadine Dragon to continue the report.
Okay, I am Nadine May P. Dragon, and I was assigned to report the lessons learned and peace message, and also the conclusion. So, albeit there were indeed more conflicts than harmony in the relationship between the Islamized, the Christianized, and the unconverted natives of this archipelago. These conflicts were merely generated and or exacerbated by our colonial experience under the divide and rule. On the other hand, human memory is selective. Hence, if history is to serve its purpose for nation building, why focus the selectivity only on divergence and bad experiences when we can also pay attention to the inspiring moments of our history? Therefore, the lessons we have learned here is to embrace the good things happened in our history rather than embracing the bad and the saddest part of our history. So, Philippine history is not only written just for us to know the struggles of our ancestors and to focus on the sufferings of our national heroes, but it is written for us to appreciate their valuable experiences for us to gain valuable lessons. So, we are not saying that we forget or hide the bad experiences of our past, for these they too offer us valuable lessons. But we should not be oblivious to that at some points in our collective past, our ancestors vividly or vaguely once recognized their commonalities, attempted to nurture the feeling of belonging and aspired to become one community. So let's proceed to the conclusion. So, all throughout these claimed attempts corroborated the claim that unity are still attainable between all the tribe people in Minsupala and in the whole Philippines. Moros, Lumads, and all Christian Filipinos can somehow unite and confederated one day, notwithstanding all the distinction of races and diverse culture. Lastly is the sociocentric belief which race is superior would one day be extinguished, for history proved that there has unity despite diversity and hostility when tyrant leaders evoke. So, most of us, the only things that marks into our mind about the history of the past is the struggles of our ancestors, their sufferings and the conflicts and chaos, news of fighting and of deaths and abuses committed on civilians, and their miraculous survival. But as a Filipino citizen, our group concluded that even though we believe that until now, let us also try to highlight and appreciate those positive effects which are the reasons why we commit our independence and produce unity. We must not only speak for our youngers about the brutality of the past tragedy, instead, we must teach them to appreciate those things and learn with it. Thank you.